What is up, Sports Geeks? It's your host, Josh, here back with another College Hoops episode. March Madness is here, Nick. We did the live stream yesterday, obviously. And we're back here today with 10 players you need to keep your eye on during March Madness. These are guys that could have a Jack Golke, Carson Edwards type of run here in March Madness. So keep your eye on these 10 guys. With no further ado, we're going to hop right into this, Nick. Real quick, we are going to be releasing 6 teams that you need to be looking for, maybe when you're picking your bracket, some upset picks in there, and then also we're releasing our entire full bracket. So make sure to check both of those out as well. But, Nick, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you here real quick, or just to start this off here. Who's your first player that you are going to be keeping an eye on here come March Madness?
I feel like this is an
real quick, too, I do think we need to say this. These are not your huge name players, right? A guy like Johni Broome, Cooper Flagg, Mark Sears. These guys, those guys are givens in our mind that you need. Those they're going to catch your eye no matter what. We're looking at kind of some of those guys that maybe aren't at the they're not the number one most. They don't get the most attention on their team, or they're maybe playing on this mid-major, or in that 5 to 9 seed range. So just real quick, you won't see somebody like Johni Broome, Cooper Flagg, Mark Sears. You won't see any of those guys. Obviously, they're going to catch your attention. But over to you for your first one here, Nick.
Yes, I think 4 out of my 5 are actually mid majors. So
love
that. That's like instantly when you brought up this category that we we're going to do, I was instantly got drawn to the mid majors. And this is a guy that we both agreed with. So it was like if it was good, he was going to be on one of our lists. It was just who got him first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got to be Donovan Dent.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you look at him; he's an undersized guard at 6'2", buck 85. He's a junior. He's been playing under Richard Pitino for 3 years. This is his third year now, running the show at the point, and he's having a fantastic year. I mean, he's having a great year. He averages 21 points, 3 rebounds, 6.5 assists on 49% shooting. He's having a great year. Really, this Lobos team would not have won, in my opinion, the Mountain West if they didn't have him.
No.
This is a guy that you literally cannot get rid of. You have to have him on your team. And the fact that Richard Pitino is able to gather up the NIL money to keep him on a team is really impressive for not only New Mexico and Pitino, but for the whole league in general. Because these are the type of guys that you'll see if you do stay up late at night and watch Mountain West games at 10, 11 o'clock. These are the guys that are the studs that run the conference. And, I mean, he's going to be in a fantastic matchup going up against one of the better guards and a guy who was, for some people, a possible pick for National Player of the Year in Cam Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a really interesting matchup. But just looking through his averages over the years, I mean, just in his points alone, as a freshman, he averaged 6 points. Sophomore last year, 14, and now he's up to 21. I mean, and this isn't a guy that turns the ball over a crazy amount. His turnovers have went up as he's gotten older, but I think that's just because I think that's just because he's getting used a lot more. He averages 35 minutes a game, and I think he's not nearly as scared and as timid as he was his first 2 years, and he's really starting to be a breakout guy that knows what he needs to do. And I think it's just really impressive because, like, his assist numbers went up. A full assist this year. His turnovers only went up by 0.6.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, his assist to turnover ratio is pretty solid, and I think he gives New Mexico a legitimate chance to get a 10-7 upset here against Marquette because just having him on the floor alone to go along with Nelly Jr. Joseph is a really good pairing, and if they didn't have him, I don't even think we'd be seeing a tournament team in New Mexico.
No. I mean, I completely agree with you. Donovan Dent is the number one guy that comes to mind when you think about a guy that has not gotten a ton of attention on the season from national media. Obviously, wins Mountain West Player of the Year.
Top Mountain West Player of the Year, and nobody talks about him.
Right, but the impact that he has on their team, the 2.6 turnovers per game. I don't care about that because you watch them play. The ball is in his hands every single time down the court. He is shooting or facilitating every single big moment of the game. And so having over a 2 I think he's at like a 2.2 assist to turnover ratio. That's a great ratio for somebody with the usage rate that he's got. I mean, the way that I watch him play, and as a Michigan State fan, obviously I got my Michigan State shirt on as always. I'm repping all week, but which, by the way, I'm also going to be at this game, so I'm going to get to see this Marquette.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous you're going to get to see that game.
Yeah, but Donovan Dent gives me a little bit of Tyson Walker vibes, man. Like an
Yeah.
undersized guard that's just so crafty around the rim, but also can shoot the three at a really, really high level. I mean, his 3-point percentage is steadily gone up. He's somebody who is nearly like a 50-40 guy, right? I mean, his free throw percentage is in the 70s, I believe. So he's not a 50-40-90 guy, but
Yeah.
uh, he shoots really, really efficient from the floor to be at a 20-point per game. Like, right? Like, think about a guy like Eric Dixon, right? Who shoots like 38% from the floor. Sure, he averages 23, but he's just chucking shots.
Yep.
Dude, Donovan Dent is not that. He is a facilitator. He's a shot creator that plays at a highly efficient level. I
Extremely efficient.
completely agree with you
Extremely.
that Donovan Dent's going to be a guy to watch. Also, this is just going to be a beautiful transition here. Just pay attention to this one, Nick, because what Donovan Dent's going to do to Marquette is going to be very similar to what was done to them in the tournament by a guy named Ryan Conwell, right? Is a
Yep.
guard that can
Yep.
create his own shot and shoot the three. And that's where I'm going right away is Ryan Conwell for X. Sorry, Nick.
I think
have
that's a
to.
great. I will give credit where credit's due. I think that is a fantastic pick because he is
Yeah.
a stud.
Well,
My Bearcats saw him last year in the NIT, and he is a fantastic basketball player. Fantastic
yes.
basketball player. Him versus Trey Johnson is going to be a movie on
Yes.
Wednesday night.
And the thing about Ryan Conwell is he's playing his best basketball right now. He is
Yeah.
the best basketball of his season he's playing right now. I look at like what he's doing in his last 5 22, 20, 21, 21, 38. Are you kidding me? 20 plus in all of his
Yeah.
last 5 games. And this is the biggest stretch of five games for Xavier's season, right? All of these last 5 games that he's played has been season on the line, you cannot lose. And what's he doing? Right? I mean, I believe they only lost one of those games in there, right? Yeah, they only
Yeah.
lost one of those games, and it was the Marquette game in
It
which
was
he
the
dropped
Marquette game.
38. So he is playing his best basketball this season right now. And I think this Xavier team has kind of seen for us to play well, we have to allow Ryan Conwell the freedom to just do what he pleases. And he's
Yep.
also shooting the ball at such a high level right now. I believe like 50% plus in every single one of his last 5 games, including whatever that. What was he against Marquette here? 7 of 11 from 3 against Marquette.
It was something. It was something ridiculous.
Yeah, and so I think that what Ryan Conwell possesses is an elite ability to shot create and be a 3-level scorer, but kind of focusing in on that. Obviously, he's the 3-point specialist, but
Yeah.
also is able to get to the line. He's able to get to the rim, and I think that that's really important when you get to tournament. Teams can't just run him off the 3-point line. Somebody like Fletcher Lawyer's, I think, gotten better at it. Somebody like maybe like Kobe Brea, right? Kobe
Yeah.
Brea for Kentucky. You run him off the 3-point line, maybe he gets a singular dunk in the game, but he's really a 3-point specialist.
Yeah. That's what he lives and dies by.
Yeah, that is not Ryan Conwell. So I am a huge on Ryan Conwell. We're going to get to see him in the playing game. And so maybe we get to see 2 games of Ryan Conwell at least. But I think that realistically, if teams don't figure out how to defend him, he's going to torch somebody come March here.
Yeah.
We
I
are
mean,
March. Come this week.
to put a talking point into that, I agree. When I look at this matchup with Texas, I don't know who's going to guard him. I'm kind of leaning towards it being Tremont Mark.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, if it is Tremont Mark, that's going to be a great matchup because obviously we know where Tremont Mark comes from, who he's played for, his past coaches. I
Yep.
mean, he is a product of Kelvin Sampson in Houston. He
Yep.
went and played for Musselman at Arkansas. Like he's played for coaches that know how to sit down, make their guys defend, and also be able to get out and run. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I assume that's who's going to be guarding him.
Mhm.
Can Tremont Mark, the super senior, get the job done and really hold Ryan Conwell in check? And if he can, then I think you see Texas walking away. But if he can't do it, then I could see a Ryan Conwell show. And we have a game where it's Ryan Conwell versus Trey Johnson, who gets to 25 or 30 points first. And that's probably who's going to win.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that realistically, I look at a team like Illinois, who obviously the winner of this Texas Xavier team plays, right? Is a team like Illinois, you better be able to defend one of those guys, Conwell or Johnson. Whoever comes out of this game, you better have a plan to defend them because if you don't, they will be the most talented player on the court, right?
Yes.
I know Kasparas Yakachona is going to be a great NBA player someday, right? Because he's 18 years old and he's a 6'7" guard. Don't get me wrong. He's the better NBA prospect in 5-7 years. He's going to be the better player than Conwell, maybe not Trey Johnson. But, I mean, these guys are absurdly talented college basketball players. Trey Johnson specifically, He's my second player, actually. So we were alluding to that quite a bit. Trey
Yeah,
Johnson's
I knew he was on your list. So I was like, I was going to throw him up there.
Yeah, no, I love it. So, I mean, Trey Johnson, look, I was talking, Jakob Jones is a 6'7" guard. Trey Johnson's 6'6", and he's put together. And he
Yep.
has every single level of scoring. He is as three level gets. He gets to the rim at an extremely high rate, attempts around 4 free throws per game, which for a point guard is pretty solid. And then he also shoots the 3 ball right around 40%.
He's got
And
really good splits.
Yeah, and I understand his field goal percentage isn't necessarily where I'd love it to be, right? We were talking about Donovan Dent up around 50% from the floor. But if you watch Trey Johnson play, he gets a lot of grenades. Like he is
not afraid to shoot. He is not afraid.
No, and he does get a lot of like late shot clock grenades where it's the ball's in your hand, 3 seconds left. Can you create something? Just because he's able to create a shot every time. Right. So I think his field goal percentage kind of sacrifices his field goal percentage because he's just able to get a shot off like that. And I think that's what we're going to see against this Xavier team is like when you played against Marquette in that game, Cam Jones was very, very, very good in that game.
Yes.
He's I believe 28 points in that game.
Yeah. So, I mean, he had 15 before like I think the 10-minute mark in the first half. Yeah, something ridiculous like that. Like he had his first like 6 minutes of the game was just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Johnson and I think Trey Johnson as a shot creator, it maybe is more talented as far as creating space. I think Cam Jones is the better scorer. But Trey Johnson you take Trey Johnson's best night against Cam Jones's best night. I might take Trey Johnson's because the space creation that he gets out at the perimeter is unreal. So Trey Johnson's a guy that if you catch him on a night where he's feeling it, it's just overpack your bag, Xavier, because or Illinois, whoever. So the fun thing is that we're going to get to see Ryan Conrail or Trey Johnson. We're going to get to see one of them for one game, one of them for at least 2 games. And I think that whichever one of those guys plays 2 games is going to have 50+ points between those 2 games combined. And who knows what they can do to Illinois. So those are my first 2 guys, though. Over to you for your second one here.
I really do love your Trey Johnson pick. I just want to throw this out. He had a 4-game stretch towards the end of the year, and the teams included Alabama, Kentucky, at South Carolina, at Arkansas. His numbers were 24 points, 32 points, 29 points, 39 points. And in that stretch, he shot 53%, 42%, 53%, 50%.
Yep.
He's putting up those numbers, and he's doing it with a 43+% like field goal percentage, which is ridiculous. Because usually you'll see games like that from guys like this, that are your heralded top 5 draft picks, but they're gonna shoot 33% from the field, 32% from the field because they're just actually just chucking up shots.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, he's doing it on great splits. And I think that's like we said, the biggest thing with him is he is so good with how he scores and where he's not just chucking it up like an Eric Dixon type player where he's like, all right, I'm going to put up 25, but guess what? I'm doing it on 25 shots. He's not that type of player. And the one thing I loved about it as well earlier this year that they brought up, they treat him like a pro.
Mm-hmm.
When they recruited him to Texas, he obviously really liked it. That's why he's there. But the one main talking point that they could bring to him was 1, NIL money, and 2, they were going to treat him like a pro to get him into the pros in 1 year. And I give Rodney Terry credit because, usually if you're wanting to go be a pro right away, you're going to go to a Duke. You're going to go to a Kentucky. You're going to go to, one of those top programs. And this is a Texas team that hasn't been fantastic by any stretch of the imagination since Chris Beard left. But the fact that he was able to convince him to go there, they treat him like he is a pro. Like they give him a pros type routine, like they treat him like he's a pro. He has like the 2 phones, like all that stuff. Like they literally treat him like he is getting ready in his rookie year of NBA basketball. So next year, he already feels like he's a second-year guy. Mm-hmm. And I think that just shows to what his work ethic really is. I mean, this is a guy that could be something really special. And the fact that an NBA team is going to get him maybe as early as 5, like they have him right on the outside of the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me you're going to give me a guy like that right around the top 5 with a guy with like his shooting numbers like that? I'm all in. I'm all in.
Mhm. Well,
But I agree
yeah,
with you. I think it's really going to come down to who on the other team between Xavier and Texas can stop either Conwell or Johnson. I mean, that's really
yep,
what it's going to come down to. And if you can,
absolutely.
you're going to win. If you can't, your season's going to end up in Dayton here on Wednesday. But I think your first two picks have been great. I am now going to go with a guy, 4-year guy. He's an old guy. Old John Polikitis from Yale.
Well done there, by the way. Well done.
6'6" guard, 205. He already has a win in the tournament last year against Auburn. He's playing another SEC team in the same seeding spot. This is a guy who, once again, his numbers have continued to be great as he's gotten older.
Mhm.
Freshman year, he only averaged 2 points, had an insane jump to his sophomore year, averaging 12. Then last year, he averaged 13 and a half, and now he's up to 19. And he's taken over this team. And you got to remember, this is a guy last year, he averaged 13 and a half with 2 assists on a team that had Danny Wolf
Mhm.
and got a win in the tournament. And he wasn't even their number one guy. Now it's his team. He's been there. He's got the experience. He knows what he's doing when it comes to March. I mean, I don't see it as a sexy upset pick for me, at least, but I know people do. And I could definitely see why. And if anybody's going to do it, it'd be him. I mean, his
Mhm.
numbers are insane. He averages 19.2 this year with 3.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists on 89% from the free throw line, 45% from the field, and 41% from deep. And he does
He's
this in 32 minutes a game.
he's nearly a 50-40-90 guy.
Yeah, it's insane. His numbers are fantastic.
Well,
I mean, this is a guy, like we said, like these are your type of guys come March that fly under the radar. You know, they work their ass off in their mid-major conference to get that bid for their university, and then when they get there, they always show up.
mhm.
They always show up, and he did it last year, and I think he can do it again this year. I think that they can give Texas A&M a legitimate run for their money. I don't know if they're going to have the dogs to do it, but that matchup with him and Wade Taylor is once again going to be fantastic. There's a lot of early round games where we're getting some fantastic guard play, and
Mhm.
those are two senior guys that I think can really put on a show. And yeah, John Poulikitis I think is a guy that he can possibly if they had any other matchup, I think I would like it a little bit more, but I just don't know if they have the firepower to compete with A&M, and people are sleeping on A&M, which
Yeah.
kind of makes me, like Buzz Williams and all those guys a little bit more. But no, I mean, Poulikitis is a 4-year guy at Yale. He's stuck there. He's taken him to 2 NCAA tournaments. And I mean, he has the numbers to back it up for him to be one of the best players to probably ever go through Yale.
Yeah. Well, my thing about John Polikitis is look at what he did in his 2 games against. I guess I don't know if you call Minnesota quad one. He had 2 games this season against Big Ten opponents,
Yeah.
right? They lost by 3 to Minnesota, and they lost by I believe 6 or 8 to Purdue. In those 2 games, he had 23 and 21 points.
Yep.
So when you can say, "Oh yeah, but you're coming from Yale, you're playing in the Ivy League." Look at what he did against 2 Big Ten teams. He put up 20 plus against both of them.
Good
So
shooting, too. Wasn't
yeah,
below 40.
so that's where I'm like Polikitis. Yes, you're playing against a spectacular defensive unit. Not an individual player, a unit that
Yes.
plays great defense in Texas A&M. But you have played good teams this season, and you've played really well against them. And he's a guy that's not going to lack confidence. And I think that's dangerous is when you get a guy in a lower seeded team that doesn't lack confidence, but does have the ability.
Yep.
If he has the ability, which we all know Polikitis does, if he has the ability and does not lack confidence, if you get him if he hits his first shot, you're in trouble, right? It's
Yep.
gonna be a barn burner of a game because he has the ability to continuously keep his team in the game, keep these Yale Bulldogs in the game. So no, I love Polikitis there. I love your first 2 picks. I want to hear your third one here.
Poulikitis has 13 games this year with 20 points or more.
That's a proven score right there.
Yeah. So, and next to another one for my next pick is another mid-major guy, actually a guy that, this time last year wasn't even playing Division I basketball. And that would be Bennett Sturts. I think Ben McCollum has done a fantastic job with this team. He didn't go out and try to get guys from Power 5 schools that, needed a new start because They maybe weren't getting the minutes they wanted at a big time program. No, he went out and got his guy. He brought his guys with him because he knows. He knows what these guys bring to the table. He knows that they're proven winners. He knows that they're hardworking guys. They come from the Division II level. They were slept on, coming out of high school. And look at his numbers. He's a 6'4" junior guard, 180 pounds, 19, 4.5, 5.5 on 49% shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's fantastic numbers for a guy that's coming from the D2 level. I get it. It's not an insane jump from D2 to the Missouri Valley, but you still got to look at what he's done for this team. He is their floor manager, and he knows how to get the job done. I mean, you look at him, he led them to a 30-3 record in their first year. They go back to the tournament again, and I love what he's done. I mean, his last 4 games, starting with Missouri State 23, SIU 15, Belmont 24, and then Bradley in the championship 24 on 4 rebounds, 4 assists, only 1 turnover.
Mm-hmm.
He's extremely efficient, and he limits his turnovers. In their final 5 games, he only had more than 2 turnovers 1 time. And that's extremely impressive.
With a very high usage rate and playing pretty much 40 minutes every game. I mean, I think he averages like 39.5 minutes. This dude is all – if it's not the closing seconds of the game where they're up by 20, he's on the court.
He averages 39.3 minutes a game.
Yeah. So, like, I also think that a perfect way when you have these mid-majors, and I know you took a lot of the mid-majors, I'm not going to lie, just so everyone's clear here, that the order of this, Nick picks his 5 first. So then I picked
so many mid-majors. So
the mid-majors that I wanted to pick, Nick had already picked, just so everyone's aware. So I ended up picking these guys off of the Power 5 teams that just aren't the your top teams. But just so everyone's aware, and I don't get this, Josh, you didn't pick any. Just relax.
Yeah, Josh, come on, you couldn't pick anybody.
Just relax. But Bennett Sturtz, I think I look back at what he did earlier in the season when it was non-con, right? Back in November. And he had the 3-game stretch of Miami, FAU, and Vandy, right?
Yep.
I mean, this Miami team at the time was not near as bad as they were.
No, not even remotely close.
And they went 3-0 in these games.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt is a tournament team. They were in the tournament.
And then won by double digits.
Yeah, they won by 11 that game, and he went 21, 17, 16 in those 3 games. So I look back
double against Vandy as well, 16 and 11.
Yes. So I look back at that. Look, he's played against difficult teams, and then he's continued to grow every single game this year. Yep. I will say the only thing is 0 NCAA tournament experience, but this dude's won national championships at the D2 level. He's played in national championships at the D2 level. I would say that you probably have more nerves in a national championship there than you do in a first round game.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm going out on a limb for saying that, but I think a national championship at the D2 level is a massive, massive feat.
I would agree with you that because it's still played like a first round game. I mean, you see the way they play these games. It's still sometimes nationally televised. It's not like it's just nothing. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see because they play Missouri. It's a primetime spot. That's 7:35 tip. The one thing kind of going off of Bennett Sturtz alone is how is that Drake style of play going to go against Missouri? Because we've watched Drake play all year. They are extremely slow. Mm-hmm. They are slow with the ball. They want to take away possessions. They want to minimize as many possessions as possible. Then you got Missouri on the other hand, who loves to get out and run. We talked about them earlier. They put up 110 at home against Bama. It was just literally the Missouri-Bama game was who's going to run out and get more run-outs first and get to 100. That's literally what it was. So that's really is going to be interesting to see how Drake and Sturtz can, try to slow down that pace.
Yeah.
But also still be effective in playing defense and, not get ran out of the gym.
Well, I think that the slow pace really, really favors Drake. I think these styles really, really favor Drake, in my opinion, because when you have a team that wants to run, and that's kind of their MO. I mean, that's no pun intended, as that's Missouri's state abbreviation. That is their MO.
Yeah.
And when you try to get out and run against a team who knows that's your style of play, and their style of play is to slow it down, exactly like what this situation is. If Missouri does not capitalize on early opportunities, on early, shots that they can generate, it's going to be very difficult to come back in this game because Drake plays extremely slow. And when they play slow, they're also very efficient.
Yes,
And
extremely efficient.
if you are an efficient, slow team, you can make it really difficult to get back in the game for anybody. And it means a team like Missouri, I genuinely think that if they're down by 10 to 15 points at any point in this game, they are going to resort to chucking fast break threes. And
Yes.
that is not the way to get back in the
No,
game
not a
against
recipe, especially in March. Not even
no,
remotely close to not even remotely
and,
close to a good idea.
and not against a team that you're physically better than. A
Yeah.
team that you're physically better than, you need to get to the free throw line. You need to get inside the paint. And I genuinely think that this Missouri team, I wouldn't be surprised at all. They're down by 10 or 12 points early in this game, early in the first half. They're down by 8 to 10, maybe that 6 to 8 range. In the second half, you're a Drake 4 to 6-0 run to stretch that to 10 or 12, and now Missouri's going to be chucking threes. And if the
Yep.
first three don't go in, it's really dangerous because with 10 minutes left, you got to think 10 minutes left in this game. If you're down 10 points, that's a hard 10 points to overcome
Yeah.
because Drake plays so slow and they're efficient. So if they're going to take 25 seconds on 3 straight possessions and score, dude, you are in a must score
Yeah.
spot for Missouri. But we're talking too much. We're not talking enough about players now. We're just talking about Drake against Missouri. But no, I absolutely love the pick there. I'm gonna go to. I got a couple more. I got 2 more SEC guys. I'm gonna group them together here. First one's Sean Padula. I think Padula. Look, he transfers over from VTech, right? And at VTech, kind of slowly sees gradually sees a usage and points increase, right? I think
Yeah.
working his way up to that 16 points per game, and he's their facilitator, their shot creator. Then transfers to Ole Miss, right? I mean, looking to play at a better program, and has been very solid this year. And I think that what Padula offers for you is whether you're playing at San Diego State or UNC, but specifically UNC, if you play against UNC, they just don't defend. And so
Yeah. No, they
Padula has
don't.
the ability to go for 15 or 20. And I think that the way UNC has been playing offense and shooting the three as of late, he might need to beat a team like UNC because they're
Yeah.
shooting the ball at a decent clip.
A lot
But
better than they were.
yeah, a lot better than they were. But they don't defend. And so I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see Padula put up 20, 25, maybe even 30 points in this game against, if it's UNC, if it's San Diego State, I think it'll be less. But still, he's a very, very talented player. He can shoot the three at a high level, and he also is just a very good shot creator for himself. I think I really, really like Padula. I think that of all the guys in the SEC, he flies so far under the radar, so far under the radar. If you ask somebody to tell you the top 15, 20 guys in the SEC, he might not even make their list, right? But you have to keep your eye on him come March because this kid in the tournament with the ball in his hands in big games can absolutely torch a team. So, I mean, I look back at like the OU game that I think was a huge game for them. You know, as they're closing the season, Tennessee, Florida, right? And
Yeah.
you're looking at this Ole Miss. You need to win this OU game, right? I mean, your seeding matters so much. You need to win this OU game. He puts up 26, right, on 5 of 9 from 3, and
Yep.
so I think he's really progressed kind of into the role that he's at now, gradually. Right, it didn't start that way, but I think he's gradually progressed into this role, and now he's there as a primary shot creator for them. I really like Padula here.
Yeah, the biggest thing that stands out to me really is, I mean, obviously his points dropped by about a point and a half, but his turnovers dropped by a point and a half as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really impressive. I mean, yes, his assists went down by a full assist, but if you're telling me this is a guy last year for Virginia Tech that averaged 16 and a half points, but was turning the ball over almost 3.5 to 4 times, now you're going to give me 15 and 2. I'm going to take that all day of the week. I mean, like you said, this is another guy that we've had on this list so far. It's another senior guy. It's another 4-year guy. And we always talk about it. And yes, maybe he's never played in the tournament. At least not that I know of. Maybe in his freshman year with Virginia Tech in 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
Maybe they made it that year. But he's a 4-year guy. He's got all the experience in the world. I mean, and I think that's huge, especially in March, whether you've played in March Madness games or not. You're going to give me a 4-year point guard who knows what they've done. They've been there. They've played in these high-level games, you know, dating back to the ACC when it was good these past couple years. And now you're going to be in one of the best conferences in the SEC all year. Yeah, I'm going to take that. I'm going to run with it. And I agree with you. I think that really for this Ole Miss team to make a run, which they can in this draft with their setup, or not this draft, in this bracket with their setup,
Mm-hmm.
it really comes down to him. Can he control the game when they play a team like UNC? How is
Yeah.
he going to fare when he's going up against RJ Davis and he's got to sit down and defend?
Mm-hmm.
Or he has to guard Elliot Cadeau. What is he going to do? Because if they get through that game, I'm telling you right now, they will beat Iowa State. They will. Iowa State right now is limping into the tournament. Literally the moment after they got their seed, TJ Otzelberger announced that one of their best guys in Keyshawn Gilbert was out for the year. And then Taman Lipsey is going to play, but this is another guy that's battled injury and wasn't able to finish, the Big 12 tournament. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're telling me you're going to give Sean Padula and this Ole Miss Rebels team not only a win over a team like UNC to kind of build themselves up and keep the ball rolling, because especially when UNC shouldn't have made the tournament and you were the ones that got to take them out, and
Mm-hmm.
now you get to take on an Iowa State team that's at a 3 seed that's limping into the tournament. Yeah, I can easily see them being a Sweet 16 team, and I mean that's big time for not only that program but for him and also for Chris Beard.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I'm gonna put my other. I know I said two SEC guys here. I'm gonna put my final SEC guy. I promise. Here, we were talking about these fourth year guys, all right, like Sean Padula. I'm not going fourth year. I'm going true freshman here in Jeremiah Fears. Jeremiah Fears is one of the most dynamic scorers I've seen and one of the most calm freshmen I've seen play in a very long time, and he plays at an extremely high level. Now, I will say this: he shoots a lot. I
He
mean,
does.
he shot double-digit times in
Yeah.
every single game
Yep.
since February 8th. So he's a shot chucker sometimes, but the problem is that he's so good, especially at getting to the rim, that you live with that as a
Yeah.
coach because he
Yep.
creates for you so much. I think Jeremiah Fears is
And he
somebody.
shoots so well from the free throw line that like he
Yes.
backs up. He's an 85% free throw shooter on the year.
Mhm. No, I mean, I think that Jeremiah Fears is somebody who, against this UConn team, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he puts up 25 or 30.
He's gonna
And
make Diarra and Mahaney's life a living hell in this
yes,
game. In this game.
and I wouldn't be surprised if when they play Florida, if he puts up 20 to 25
Yeah.
and keeps them in the game. I mean, I think the last time when they played Florida, they lost by 20, I think, and he had 20 plus.
Yeah,
So
he had 22 and 5.
yeah, so I think that dude Jeremiah Fears is so talented at shot creating, at getting to the rim. When the game slows down in late in March Madness, when the game slows down against UConn like it will at some point, don't be surprised if it's Jeremiah Fears getting to the free throw line, Jeremiah Fears hitting a big three, Jeremiah Fears doing something extremely clutch. That's all I gotta say about him.
I mean, you saw what he did against Kentucky in that game
Mm-hmm.
when they lost, and like in the SEC tournament, they lost by the buzzer beater. He had 28 points. I mean,
And
yeah,
the game
and
against Kentucky when they
yeah,
didn't
he
lose
had
by
yeah
or
he had 18. He had 18, 8, and 6.
and was very good late in that game. Very good. 18 points, but he scored I think their final 10. Like he was when that game closed out, it was Jeremiah Fears. Like it
Yeah,
was Jeremiah Fears versus Otega away. So like the 18 points doesn't necessarily do him justice there.
I agree. I mean, my only problem with him is like you brought it up. He does take a lot of shots, and he can get cold at times. But obviously, that's every
Mhm.
basketball player. It happens. I mean, you look at the Kentucky game. He shot 2 of 11 from deep for 18%. If he maybe knocks down 3 or more of those, maybe get to 5 of 11, you're looking
Mhm.
at a different basketball game. You're looking at a team that's probably not even in an 8-9 game. That's a
Yeah.
massive win they get from Kentucky. I mean,
Well,
that'd be a massive win they get. They'll probably still be in the 8-9 game,
mhm.
but maybe they're on the 8 and they're getting a better location, better seed line who they're going to be going up against.
Well, and my
But he
argument
still
to you
shot
there,
45.5%. But it was just
right,
like from 3, he was chucking.
right, and that's where my argument for you there would be that okay, yeah, he's 2 for 11 from 3. That's obviously not good. He was how about 8 for 11 from 2? That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah.
So he's a 3-level scorer. He's not a 3-point sharpshooter or a strictly get to the rim guy like at Carnari Richmond. But
Yeah.
he's so good at being a 3-level scorer. So I love Jeremiah Fears here. And that's my fourth one. You've done three. So here, let's go ahead and move through your fourth one, then we'll both wrap it up with our final one.
All right. So my next one is another guy that has really taken the Mountain West by storm. This is a guy. He was a 3-year guy. He's from Colorado Springs. He was a 3-year guy at Colorado. Never really got the footing to really get himself to that level of where you're like, all right, this is a guy that's consistently going to go and get you buckets, 10, 12 points a game. He never got to it. In his 3 years at Colorado, he averaged 1 point, then averaged 6.5, then averaged 6. Time for a change. So he goes on over to their neighbor there, Colorado State. And I mean, last year on that team that made it to the tournament, he averaged 12.5. And this year, he's up to 19. He's played fantastic this year. He's averaging 19. He's almost averaging a double-double. As a 6'6", 200-pound guard, he averages 19, 9.7 rebounds, 4.5 assists. He does it on 51% shooting. This is a guy that rebounds like he is a 6'8", 6'9" power forward. And he's only 6'6", and he's a guard. It's crazy. I never really watched much of Colorado State this year because they were never really in the light. I mean, like we talk about, when you're playing in the Mountain West, you're getting a lot of late night games, Eastern time. If you're in the Eastern time zone, you're seeing a lot of like 9, 10, 11 o'clock games. But also at the same time, this wasn't a Colorado State team that anybody had any hopes for. I mean, they just went on an insane run down the stretch to get themselves in the tournament. And that's why a lot of people see them as a great, matchup against Memphis, because they're the hottest team in basketball. And that's why they're favored. But you look at what he's done, I mean, and just his past, let's just say his past 6 games or 7 games alone, he had 26, 9 and 6, 15, 6 and 6, 36, 4 and 3, 25, 14 and 4, 26, 11 and 6, and then 24, 6 and 3. Yep. I mean, I watched them play against Utah State. It was honestly my first time sitting down and watching a full Colorado State game. Yeah, he is a stud. He has played himself, as of right now, into a top 40 NBA pick right now. This was a guy that wasn't really on many people's boards. Maybe towards the end of the round, maybe like a 50-plus guy. If he has a half-decent March, he could play himself into a first-round pick the way he's playing right now. And I think he's just watching him. He's not an insanely tall guy, not an insanely a guy that's going to take over a game, but he can. And he's shown it all year that he can do it. And I think this is another scenario where, kind of like with I brought it up earlier with Donovan Dent, if Nick Clifford wasn't on this team, they're not a tournament team.
No.
You take him out of the conversation, this is not a team that we're going to be playing later this week and possibly getting a win in an upset fashion, even though they are, like I said, they are favored. They wouldn't be here. And I think that's kind of what's so special is like, this is a guy, he's a 5th-year guy. He never found his feet playing for Colorado, was able to make the change. He's playing so well that there's a high chance he gets his head coach here at Colorado State a new job in one of the 5 or 6 Power 5 jobs that are open now. And it's almost single-handedly because of what he's able to do with this team down the stretch. And I think, this is a guy that a lot of people are going to see him play that first-round game against Memphis. It's going to be him versus P.J. Haggerty. And once again, it's another fantastic matchup of 2 really, really good guards.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And I look back at like what he did against Boise State, right? And Boise State was on the fringe, for on the bubble for a lot of the season. 36 in the championship, 25 earlier in the season against them, 20 earlier in the season against them. So 20, 25, and 36 against Boise State the 3 times you played him. He is an extremely talented guard forward. I don't know what to call him. He's 6'6", but plays like a guard. So
he rebounds like a big man, and then he shoots it at a 40% clip from deep, and he's also 70% from the free throw line.
Right, and handles the ball like a guard. It's just it's a weird dynamic, but man, he's extremely talented, and I agree with you. I think Colorado State's actually in a great spot to get out of the first weekend. Yeah. Right? We talked about this Maryland team is extremely, extremely good in a single given game, but they're not deep. So if something, to play them in their second game in 3 days is going to be is a good thing, right? Yeah. We saw what happened. They played against Illinois, crushed them, and then they had to play their second game in 2 days against Michigan and ran out of gas. So I think that you're completely right of everything that you said about.
I also love the fact that they're going to be able to get a team like Memphis or a team like Maryland, and they're playing them out in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the trip that they got to make compared to the trip that Memphis or Maryland has to make to go there,
Yep.
I love that a lot more. They're not changing time zones.
Mm-mm.
I mean, and then you got Memphis, you got Memphis and you got Maryland coming all the way over your way, and you're the
Yeah,
hottest team in basketball. I don't even know how many they've won in a row,
a lot.
but I mean they have won
It's not. I think it's 15.
2, 4, 6, 8.
I
Yeah,
want
they've won 10 in a row.
10. Somebody has a 15 game winning streak. I know.
They're 15-2 in their last 17. They've only had 2 losses since the beginning of February.
Jeez, on Pete.
Yeah, they've only had 2 losses since the beginning of February, and it was at New Mexico and at Utah State.
Mm.
So they haven't lost a game at home since I don't even know. I mean, we're talking back in December.
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really impressive.
Yeah, no, it is. All right, Nick, over to you for your fifth and final player here.
I saved this guy for last because I think we've talked about him all year. This is a guy that he trusted the process. He bought in to what Kelvin Sampson was feeding him, and at the beginning of the season, it didn't work out. It wasn't working out.
No.
If you look at his stats at the beginning of the season, it wasn't good. It was not good by any stretch of the imagination. People are like, when is he really going to click? When are we going to see the Milos Uzan that we know we can see? And we weren't getting it. I mean, his numbers at the beginning of the year were not good. I mean, you're looking at what he was bringing to the table, and you're like, all right, maybe Kelvin kind of flopped on this one. Or maybe he's not the scorer we know he is. Maybe he's going to get you 8, 9 points a game, and so be it. He'll do that. He'll play good defense, and that's it. I mean, you look at the start of the year, he only had 8 points against Jackson State. He put up 10 against Auburn, but he had 4 turnovers. Against Louisiana, he had 13. Hofstra, he only had 4. Bama, he only had 5. And then Notre Dame and San Diego State, 10 apiece. The guy, he was struggling, and he wasn't doing it on great numbers either. I mean, it was not good for him early, but then something flipped the switch. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was Kelvin Sampson finally lit into him, and it finally just connected. But down the stretch, he's been fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a guy that when we did our All-American teams, I had him as a second-team All-American just how well he was playing down the stretch. And I know a lot of people think that's an insane pick, but just go back and watch his film from let's say the start of February from now on. I mean, it's great. It's great what he's been able to do. Having him be able to run the point frees up LJ Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp so much, and I think we saw that in the Arizona game.
Yeah.
Just having him being able to run the point and be as dominant as he can be, but also shoot as well as he can. He was 67% from 3 against Arizona.
Yeah.
100% from the free throw line. Shot at a 50% clip. He had 25 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists on 0 turnovers. 0. Did not turn the ball over one time in that championship game. And this was a team that was down 5 at half, and Arizona dominated the whole first half.
Well, and look at the shots he hits in that game too. That's my thing is look at the shots he's hitting, and they're huge threes. It is, you know, we were up by 9. Arizona makes a run to get it down to 4 or get it down to 3. I'm gonna hit a 3 now, and it's gonna be a 6-point game. And you know, and when we go a couple possessions, and I haven't been creating this time up the court, I'm gonna make sure the ball is in my hands, and I'm gonna create for either myself or somebody else. And I think he's been so good at that down the stretch of the season and down the stretch of games here. I completely think that this is a guy who statistically in games 1 and 2 probably is not going to light you up. He's probably not going to go for 30 in the first round game because he's going to facilitate well. The other guys are going to shoot well. But when you look at an Elite Eight matchup against Tennessee, in the impact he's going to have against the guy Ziegler, right? Or you look at the impact he might have to have in a Final Four game against Duke or a Final Four game against Bama, right? He is going to be the difference maker for this Houston team. I love the pick. Statistically, might not blow you out of the water. Definitely won't blow you out of the water if you look at his season stats. But you watch him play the last month and a half. This is a guy who I fully expect to consistently make big shots. And if you don't know who he is right now, you're going to watch Houston play down the stretch, and you're going to say, that kid's a stud.
Yeah. You will see why he's such a vital part to this team. I mean, just looking at his stats from, his time at Oklahoma to now, he's another guy that's consistently getting better in the points per game column, consistently getting better, cutting back on his turnovers. I mean, you look at it, he's getting better on the assist, better on the rebounds. He's shooting a little bit. He's shooting better than he was last year. Last year, he was only 39% at Oklahoma. This year, he's 46. Last year, 3-point percentage, he was 29.6. Now he's up to 42.6. It's a guy that's consistently getting better. He's buying into what Kelvin Sampson is feeding him, and it's working out. It took a little bit. Don't get me wrong, it did. It took a little bit, and I think a lot of the country that watches college basketball was worried, and they saw it. And don't get me wrong, so was I. So was I, because that's really what Houston needed to replace from that team last year. There was two things that Houston really needed to replace, and it was shooting the three ball better and more efficiently, and getting another point guard like Jamal Shead that could take over the game, could run the point, and really get your shooters open. And look what they've done. He's done exactly that. And like you said, you take away the first half, his stats are great. You obviously have to keep the first half of the season in. Yeah, his stats don't look that good. But he plays a lot higher of a quality basketball player than his stats really show. And I think that's why I had him picked at least as a second-team All-American. I couldn't believe he didn't even make Big 12 first team. I really couldn't believe it. But no, he's a fantastic player. And just watch down the stretch what he's going to do for this Houston team, and how really important he'll be to their success in this tournament.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my fifth player, our 10th and final player of the episode here, Nick. I'm going to the Big Ten now. So no Power Five no mid majors for me, only Power Fives. But
it's a good balance, though. It's a good balance of 5 mid major, 5
between
power.
The two of us. Yeah, between the two of us. Yeah. I'm going to Jackson Shellstad here, and this is a guy who, look, coming out of Oregon here, he's a sophomore. He's an undersized guard, right? He's only 6 foot. I do think he's a guard that's actually 6 foot, maybe is actually 6'1". He's not a guard that's listed at 6 foot that actually looks like he's 5'10", right? Like I know Xavier.
Yeah, no, he looks like a legitimate. He looks like a legitimate 6 foot, not like, all right, he's maybe 6 foot if you have shoes on.
Yeah, no, he's a legitimate 6 foot, but he's somebody who's extremely dynamic and has the ultra green light from 3.
Yes,
and I think that when you get the ultra green light from 3 and somebody who's a dynamic 3-level scorer like Shellstad, you run into the ability in March to make a run, because when I mean we've seen it so many times, right? Like I understand Carson Edwards is a guy who won like Big Ten Player of the Year, but I think back to like
his tournament run was magical.
Yes, or think back to even like Kyle Guy on their tournament run, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to think of some other, Ryan Klein for that same Purdue team, right? Jack Gold.
Honestly, Archie Diacono for the Nova championship team.
Like Jack Golke from last year, a guy who has an ultra green light and is a lights out shooter. Now Shellstad has a lot more dynamic. He's a lot more of a dynamic scorer than Jack Golke, but like Shellstad is able to score at 3 levels and has unlimited range as well. So I think that you're in a game against Liberty, and then
a team that also loves shooting a 3. It's gonna be a 3 fest, absolute 3-point fest.
And then you're coming into a game against probably Arizona maybe Akron. I think that Shellstad actually is in a spot where I could really, really, really see him putting up 20 plus in back-to-back games and flirting with 30 in one of the games, because he's got the ultra green light, and if he starts to get a little bit of confidence come March into the tournament, he can carry that throughout a run. And I think that this Oregon team could be dangerous, but only if he's shooting well. I think that it's largely dependent on him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a lights-out shooting performance for the first weekend.
I agree. This is a guy that when you watch just throughout the year, he could go off and be like for a random 25 piece just out of nowhere. But then he could also go off and he could have 3 points. You don't know what you're going to get. That's the only problem with him is he's so up and down to where he'll give you a game where he puts up, just for example, earlier this year when they played at Minnesota, he put up 15. And then the following game they played at Mick Cronin's place at UCLA. He had 0 points and he played 29 minutes. You just don't know what you're going to get. But then you go look at what he does against, he has a stretch against at Michigan, at Michigan State, home for Northwestern, and home for Rutgers. He goes 18, 22, 26, 19.
Yep.
And then what does he do after that? They have a game at Iowa. He plays 31 minutes. He goes 0 of 7 from the field, 0 of 5 from deep, and he puts up 3 points.
Yep.
That's what you're going to get with him. He's that kind of player. You take the good with the bad. You really do. But his good is really good, like you said. I mean, this is a guy that he really could go on a run. I don't see them having problems with Liberty. And if you get him into an old Pac-12 rematch with Arizona, I could easily see him having one of those 25-plus point games, and they're sending Arizona packing home early. And I wouldn't be surprised at all by it.
Yeah, well, I think the dangerous thing for Arizona here, and this is my final point, and then we'll wrap this up, is Shellstad playing against Liberty. This is an opportunity where this is a confidence game, right?
Yes.
Obviously, don't get me wrong, Liberty is playing capable to win this game, but Oregon's going to be favored in this game.
Yep.
And if Oregon wins this game by 15 plus, and Shellstad has I'm settling into my role game,
Yep.
then it is really, really dangerous for Arizona, because then we talked about it, ultra green light, and now he's got this just March Madness motivation.
Happens every year.
Confidence.
Happens every year.
And it's like, I'm on top of the world and nobody's better than me. If you have a guy with an ultra green light with that attitude, who's got the shot making ability that Jackson Shellstad has, that's dangerous. So, no, I'm obviously think that he can have a great tournament. So,
I mean, this is another game that's at Play Down Washington.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, some of these teams are getting a really good draw, and I think that's only going to help them, especially with Oregon.
Yeah, no, completely agreed. So those are our 10 guys there, guys. Again, check out the 6 teams that we have that we think could overperform come March here, and make sure to check out our official bracket, which is live now. So make sure to check both of those out. Thank you for tuning into this, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
3 seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship. Catches, puts up a 3. Won't go. Rebound box. Back out to Allen.